right, today's Pain Points of Interest, we're going to be doing the same thing as last week. We're going to read some questions off of Reddit and discuss them. So we're going to get right into it. Today, we found a question from the user Canadian Duke 1980. How's it going, man? He said, I had to fire the new guy this week, and I'm incredibly upset with myself for not doing it sooner. I have 5 employees. I own a plumbing firm that specializes in sewer cleaning, inspection, and replacement. 2 months ago, I hired a guy who was friendly, excellent with customers, and fun to work with. After only 1 week, yellow flags came up. He was late to work, calling in sick every Monday. I sat him down and reminded him that he's still on his 90-day probation and that he needs to shape up. He started going home during the day, during work hours. Like him and other employees will be driving to our next appointment, the new guy simply just wouldn't show up for that particular job, and then he'd be at the next one. The next stick down, he was very defensive and blamed his lack of learning new skills on poor training, and then had the gall to start telling me that I could be running things better. I've been in this for 13 years, and I do quite well. I always listen to my employees' ideas, but the new guy simply didn't have enough to offer with any meaningful input. The next week, he violated safety standards by wearing earbuds while working. And later that day, he forgets to take his work gloves off and gets fecal matter in the kitchen counter of an elderly client. Later that day, he got angry at a difficult job and threw his gloves down. So at the end of the day, I took a couple of minutes and asked all the other employees what they thought about him. Almost all of them thought that he wasn't going to make it, and I decided to let him go. But I didn't. I let him talk me into another chance, which was a big mistake. We did quality inspections at one of his jobs after a day or so running solo, and he failed at every job. We had to make return appointments to redo all of his work under warranty. So I fired him. Later that day, the foreman at one of my biggest clients screenshotted me an internal memo that said that they were considering not using my company anymore after the behavior of the new guy at the property. I obviously apologized up and down and called the tenant of the property and apologized to them, assured them that the new guy had been fired and that wouldn't happen again. Anyway, so I'm sure that anybody who's run a business and has had employees has had to deal with something like this at some point or another in the course of running their business. And firing someone is never easy or fun. It's probably one of the least desirable things to do when you're running a business. But as this particular user, kind of clearly stated here, this guy was just, failing in every single aspect. What would you say, Mike, when it comes to having employees and they're doing things like this? What is your rule of thumb in terms of how quickly you get rid of them? He gave this guy, it looks like 3 or 4 warnings, talked to him several times. Would you agree with that as the course that should have been taken, or should you have a no tolerance policy? How does that work? I mean, I'm sure there's legal ramifications of something like that as well. So let's talk about that.
So depending upon the state, and there's a good portion of them, like here in Texas, where it's right to work, legal ramifications are usually pretty small. And especially in a situation where it's on a probationary period, you generally can have justification pretty easily to avoid paying unemployment. Firing somebody should be hard for you personally as an owner, because it takes into account your decisions in hiring them in the first place and all of that. There was a comment in that thread that said hire slowly and fire quickly, and I disagree with that comment, because I believe in hiring fast and firing faster. The simple fact of the matter is, at the first safety violation, I believe that's termination. The safety violations in trades like plumbing are there for a reason, and that would have been the red line for me.
Well, so much of their business is reliant on these staying with codes and maintaining these safety standards, that if your employees are continually failing them, I mean, obviously that's going to reflect back on your company in a completely negative way, as he mentioned that one of his clients was thinking about dumping him completely because of this one employee.
Right, right. Um, that even if the safety standard was only wearing earbuds, it would have been immediate termination for me. That's all I can do. Prior to that statement, I was sitting here saying, where's the failure on the part of the owner? As owners and businesses, we do have some responsibility to recognize our own failures in someone's performance that we've hired. The lack of training is something to definitely be concerned about, and I would have investigated that very deeply. And to be completely and totally fair to the employee, those complaints were present before before even the first those complaints were present in the first sit down, and I think that there's something going on for this particular person. I think there's something going on with the rest of his employees, because his initial impression was that he was friendly and excellent with customers and fun to work with. And then the yellow flags started coming. So where was the problem? And usually the problem exists between people. So should he have fired him very quickly? Yes, absolutely. Should he also be examining the reasons why this occurred? Again, absolutely. This is very important, because if his other employees, the other 4 employees he has, bear some responsibility for why this seemingly excellent hire went down the tube so quick, I need to know that, because I need to not pair those people that are causing the problem with somebody else new in the future.
Well, and two, you have to wonder what was people can always make a great first impression, because they're trying really hard to get the job, or, they try in the beginning so that they get the in, and then once they've got the in, they don't care as much anymore. But then, in my own experience running a business, knowing that part of the responsibility falls to me to make sure I have clearly outlined what's expected and what needs to happen and what I require. And, when you don't do those things is when you do have a lot of issues with the people you hire, because they can't read your mind. They don't know what you're expecting. So there could have been a breakdown somewhere along that process for this individual where they weren't, it wasn't clearly laid out, what was expected. Obviously not showing up to a job when you're required to be there and being late or calling in sick all the time, that's on the employee. But, as a business owner, you have to look at, have I given very clear parameters and instruction and expectation so that they have no doubt of what they need to do in order to maintain their employment status with me. So
right.
I think that's an interesting problem. And I know almost everybody who's ever run a business, especially if they have to work with other people, have had to deal with that at some point or another. And I'm sure that's a question that'll come up again in a different fashion. But yeah, I think that's always a hard one, because, confrontation is never fun for anybody.
No, not at all.
But when your business reputation is on the line, you gotta do what you gotta do. So, well, anyway, if you guys have any thoughts on this, have any comments or your own personal experience you'd like to share, shoot us an email or find us on our website at PaynePoints.com, or any social media, Facebook and LinkedIn at PaynePoints, Instagram at Payne.points, and Twitter at PointsPayne. So join us tomorrow and we'll have a whole other topic for you.